Good afternoon, reception, and welcome to our literacy lesson today. We are going to finish off our story map today and do the ending of the story, and then we can read through it all from start to finish. Shall we start at the beginning today so we can remember where we are? Okay, ready to join in? Once upon a time, there was a girl called Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood lived in a house in the forest. One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mum said, "Take this to Granny." So, Little Red Riding Hood skipped through the forest. But a wolf was watching. The wolf was hungry. So, the wolf knocked on Granny's door. Suddenly, the wolf gobbled Granny up. But the wolf was still hungry. So, the wolf put on Granny's wig and her glasses and her dress. Later on, Little Red Riding Hood arrived at Granny's and knocked on the door. Little Red Riding Hood said, "Oh, Granny, what big ears you have." The wolf said, "All the better to hear you with, my dear." Little Red Riding Hood said, "Oh, Granny, what big eyes you have." "All the better to see you with, my dear," said the wolf. "Oh, Granny, what big teeth you have," said Red Riding Hood. "All the better to eat you with, my dear," said the wolf. And what did he do? Can you remember what happened next? You're right, he ate up Red Riding Hood, didn't he? So I've written our word and here. Can you remember what action we do for and? And, well done. And what do you do when you eat something? You make a big sound. Do you know what that's called? No? It's called gulp. My turn, gulp. Your turn? Well done. So let's do a big gulp. Gulp. What sound does gulp start with? G. Well done. G. Ooh. P. Gulp. Gulp. Let's draw our sound buttons on to help us. The wolf. Let's draw the wolf. The wolf's still dressed as Granny, isn't he? So we need to give him his glasses and a wig. What did the wolf do? He ate Red Riding Hood. That's right. So I'm going to draw a really small Red Riding Hood here. And we're going to draw an arrow into the wolf's mouth. Okay? What sound does wolf start with? W. Well done. So down, up, down, up. The wolf ate Red Riding Hood. Who can remember what this means? What word do we say when we do this in Talk for Writing? Amazing, good job. It means suddenly. My turn, suddenly. Your turn? Good job, suddenly. So we're going to draw our two hands here to remind us to say suddenly. What happened next in the story? Can you remember? Who was the next character that we're going to talk about? It was the woodcutter. Well done. So we've got to draw a new character. the woodcutter was a man. So let's draw a man. There we go. And what did he have in his hand? What was he using to cut the wood? An axe. Amazing. So let's draw an axe in his hand. There we go. What sound does axe start with? Ah, ah, ah. Well done. And he's a woodcutter. Okay. So let's give him a hat as well. Works outdoors. There's a hat. Suddenly, the woodcutter. Oh, we need an action for woodcutter. What action do you think we should do for woodcutter? Amazing ideas. I'm going to do this because I think he would have his axe on his shoulder. But if you have a better idea, you do that one. So, the woodcutter, what did he do? Where was he? He came to Granny's house. So just like everybody else, when they came to Granny's house, they got to Granny's door first, didn't they? So there's Granny's door. What sound does Granny start with? G. Amazing. Grr. G. R. Grr. Ah. Grr. An. Grr. An. E. Granny's house. When he got there, what did he find? Could he see Red Riding Hood? Could he see Granny? No, he could only see the wolf, who was still dressed as Granny. Goodness me, and what did he do to the wolf? That's right, he cut his tummy, didn't he? So, let's listen. How many sounds can we hear in cut? My turn. Cut. Your turn? Good. Let's listen again. Cut. How many sounds? 3. Good job. Looking at my Fred fingers. Fred fingers looking at me. Squeeze the sounds on. Cut. Cut. First sound. Curl around the caterpillar. Oh, that's not supposed to go there. Let's pop it here. Curl around the caterpillar. Sound button under each one. Cut. The woodcutter cut open the wolf's tummy. What action can we do for the woodcutter? Cut open the wolf's tummy. My woodcutter's got his axe on his shoulder, so I think I'm going to go like this. He's going to cut it with a big action. But if you have a better idea, then you do that at home. Okay. So, suddenly, a woodcutter arrived at Granny's. He cut open the wolf. So let's draw the wolf again. He's probably not wearing Granny's clothes anymore because he doesn't need to trick anybody, does he? There we go. Woof for wolf. He cut open the wolf. And what action do we do for and? Amazing, well done. What sounds can you hear in and? And. Ah. N. D. And. What happened next? The woodcutter had cut open the wolf's tummy. So Granny and Red Riding Hood could escape. That's right. So let's draw a picture of Granny. Granny's got a nice dress on. With a pinny. There's Granny. G for Granny. And Red Riding Hood who's got her cloak on and her hood over her head. Ed for Red Riding Hood. Suddenly, the woodcutter arrived at Granny's house. He cut open the wolf and... Oh, we need an action for Granny. What action can we do for Granny? Yeah, we could give her her wig, couldn't we? Should we do that? Should we give her her wig? Amazing. So Granny and Red Riding Hood jumped out. Jump. Do you think we can write that word? Good. Okay, what sound can you hear first? Jump. Well done. J. Oh. Oh. J. Oh. J. Oh. Jump. Jumped out. Goodness me, thank goodness they are safe. I was getting a bit worried. What happened next? Now, the thing about fairy tales that have been around for a very, very, very long time is sometimes the endings are different. So in some Red Riding Hood books, it will say that Granny stitched Wolf's tummy up. In some, the wolf will run away. In others, the wolf's put in a stew. So sometimes the fairy tale endings change, and that's normally because when a granny has told it to their little girl, and then their little girl has told it to her little girl or boy, then sometimes people get a bit confused and the story changes a little bit. But one very important thing, even if the story in the middle or near the end changes a little bit, we know that fairy tales always finish in the same way. So, if a fairy tale always finishes in the same way, we should know how it finishes, because we've already done one fairy tale, haven't we? We did Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So, how did that story finish? They all lived happily ever after. Amazing, well done. So this story, how do you think it's going to end? They all lived happily ever after. Amazing, well done. So let's draw a house, because we live in houses, don't we? They all lived happily. There's a nice big smiley face. Ever after. So we're going to draw a closed book, because this is the end of our story, and we're even going to write the end this time. Okay, so that's one of our red tricky words, isn't it? What sounds do I need to write the? A t, a h, and a e. Good job. T, h, e. The end. End. What sounds can you hear in end? Lift off the top and scoop out the egg. Down Nobby and over his net. The end. Round the dinosaur's bottom, up his tall neck and down to his feet. And I'm going to do a big full stop at the end, because we are finished. And full stops mean that bit is finished. Wow, look at this story. That's long. Shall we read it all the way from the beginning to the end? Are you ready? Jump up, give yourselves a shake. Are you ready to join in? Good. Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood lived in a house in the forest. One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mum said, "Take this to Granny." So, Little Red Riding Hood skipped through the forest. But a wolf was watching. The wolf was hungry. So the wolf went to Granny's house. Suddenly, the wolf gobbled Granny up. But the wolf was still hungry. So he put on Granny's wig and her glasses and the dress. Later on, Little Red Riding Hood knocked on Granny's door. Little Red Riding Hood said, "Oh, Granny, what big ears you have." "All the better to hear you with, my dear," said the wolf. "Oh, Granny, what big eyes you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to see you with, my dear," said the wolf. Little Red Riding Hood said, "Oh, Granny, what big teeth you have." "All the better to eat you with, my dear." And gulp! The wolf ate Little Red Riding Hood. Suddenly, a woodcutter came to Granny's house. He cut the wolf's tummy, and Granny and Red Riding Hood, Granny and Red Riding Hood jumped out. They all lived happily ever after. The end. Amazing, everybody. That was really, really good. What I'm going to do is record it again, just on its own, so that you can just practice the story. And I really hope you can have a go at writing your own story map all the way from Once Upon a Time to the end, because our fairy tales have 3 very important parts. So the beginning is where we meet the characters, we find out the setting where the story happens, and then in the middle there is a problem to be solved. The middle of this story is the problem in this story is that the wolf is hungry and he keeps eating people. And at the end of the story, there is always a solution, which is something that fixes the problem. So what fixed the problem in this story? Who made sure that the big bad wolf couldn't eat any more people? The woodcutter, that's right. What did he do? He cut open the wolf's tummy. That's right. So the woodcutter solved the problem in this fairy tale, and right at the end, they all lived happily ever after. So we need to make sure that when we do our stories, we've got the beginning, the middle, and the end. Well done. I can't wait to see your story maps, and maybe if your grown-ups can record you reading it, that would be absolutely amazing as well. All right, I'll see you really, really soon, reception. Well done.